Welcome to the South Ops Fire Weather Webcast for Thursday, June 19th. I'm your host, Kristen Stewart. High pressure is beginning to weaken this morning as a Pacific trough approaches the coast. As a result, the marine layer has significantly deepened and allowed lots of low clouds to return to the coastal plains. A Catalina eddy circulation has allowed low clouds to extend all the way into the Inland Empire and over portions of the lower coastal slopes. These clouds will gradually clear this morning, giving way to another sunny day, though the approaching trough will give way to some cooling. High temperatures today will cool at least 5 to 10 degrees across most of central California and over the coastal plains of southern California due to the approaching trough kicking the high pressure to the east. Not much change is expected over the interior, as it will take another day for the cooling to spread farther inland. Away from the beaches, the coastal areas will likely range in the 80s to mid-90s, with the highest readings over the coastal valleys away from the marine influence. The deeper marine layer this morning will keep areas near the coastline more comfortable in the 70s. With little change over the interior, the Central Valley and High Desert will remain in the upper 90s to close to 100, and the Low Desert will range over 110. Despite the deepening marine layer and cooling temperatures, very little change in humidity is expected today as the dry air mass we have been dealing with lately is still hanging around. Widespread minimum humidities ranging in the upper single digits to mid-teens will remain common away from the coastline, except even drier in the low to mid-single digits for the deserts and some mid and upper slopes. Since the marine layer is deeper than yesterday, not as many lower humidities are expected to expand into the inland coastal plains. Poor overnight recoveries are likely to continue over many inland areas tonight, particularly over the deserts and the mid and upper slopes. Enhanced westerly breeziness is expected across the interior today, ahead of the approaching trough, particularly for the deserts and adjacent slopes. Gusts of 25 to 45 miles an hour will be common, with occasional higher gusts in localized spots. Breezy north to northwest winds are also likely across the central coast into the southern California mountains. These breezy conditions, combined with very warm and dry weather, will lead to a continuation of elevated fire weather conditions for much of the interior. At times, critical fire weather conditions are likely across the windier and drier areas, particularly the deserts and adjacent slopes. Like I mentioned at the beginning, the weak high pressure that has been in control the majority of this week will be forced eastward into the desert southwest today by an approaching Pacific trough. The trough will deepen over the west coast Friday into the weekend, bringing much cooler and breezier weather to the region. A weak troughing pattern will likely linger over the region the first half of next week, keeping cooler weather and occasional breeziness in place. An additional 5 to 10 degrees of cooling is likely region-wide on Friday, and again on Saturday across the interior in response to the deepening trough moving over California. This significant amount of cooling will bring temperatures back below seasonal normals, with valley highs falling into the 80s. A deeper marine layer is expected, which will keep the coastal areas much cooler in the 70s, including for the inland portions. Despite the deeper marine layer and cooling temperatures, very dry conditions are expected to linger through the weekend across the interior and mid and upper slopes. The incoming trough will strengthen the surface pressure gradients and upper-level wind to support enhanced westerly winds across the region, particularly for Friday and Saturday. The strongest winds are expected on Friday, with widespread gusty southwest to northwest winds across the region. The deserts and adjacent slopes will likely see the strongest winds, with gusts in the 40 to 60 miles an hour range common. As the trough shifts farther south on Saturday, the axis of peak winds will also shift southward. Winds on Saturday will be mostly out of the north to northwest, largely affecting the central coast and eastward out towards the southern Sierra and Mojave Desert, though it will still remain quite breezy along and east of the central and eastern Sierra crest. These gusty winds, combined with continued very low humidity, will continue bringing elevated to critical fire weather conditions to the deserts and adjacent slopes. Most other areas will see a reduction in fire danger on Friday and Saturday with the cooler temperatures, deeper marine layer, and at least somewhat higher humidity. As for early next week, mostly uneventful weather is expected. Temperatures will slowly warm back up Sunday into early next week, with valleys returning to the upper 80s to mid-90s. Dry conditions will continue, but winds will become lighter. Large fire potential will remain elevated today due to the continued warm, dry, and locally breezy conditions. Overall region potential will decrease Friday and Saturday, but the very dry and windy conditions across the deserts and adjacent slopes will continue bringing elevated to at times critical fire weather conditions. Fire potential should be much lower by early next week with the return of cooler temperatures, a deep marine layer, and less wind. In the meantime, Grass-dominated fuels remain the most likely to support significant fire spread on any well-aligned starts. However, with the sheer amount of drying over the last couple weeks, there is some potential for brush and understory fuels to start becoming more receptive, especially below 4,000 feet. Expect moderate initial attack activity to continue today, then likely a decrease in activity into next week. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in. Our next webcast will be on Friday, June 20th. Have a fantastic day.